Tooth-chipping biscuits, velvet-rich coffee, and a no-waste bowl specialty, rugged frontier food knew no luxury, just flavor and function. Though the Wild West has ridden off into history, its bold, no-frills culinary spirit still rides strong on the plate. Cattle drive meals in the Old West were all about survival and simplicity. Without refrigeration, only shelf-stable ingredients made the cut. Dried beans, salt pork, and hardtack ruled the menu. Compactness and portability were essential, with chuck wagons serving as mobile kitchens. Smoked jerky was a cowboy staple that met every trail need: durable, nutritious, and easy to pack. Cowboys often made it themselves, using beef or wild game like bison or deer. While their versions were rugged and unpolished, they delivered rich flavor and essential protein. Today, jerky still shines as a smart, portable snack for outdoor adventures. Whether you're hiking or camping, many modern varieties offer a protein-packed, paleo-friendly option that echoes the practical spirit of the Old West. Stewed beans are often romanticized as a staple of cowboy cuisine, but their role on the trail was more occasional than constant. While dried beans were a chuck wagon essential due to their long shelf life and light weight, preparing them wasn't always practical. Rehydrating and cooking beans could take hours, time a chuck wagon cook didn't always have after a long day on the move. Still, they made appearances when time allowed. Chef and food scientist Michael Murdy notes that beans simmered with bacon were a favorite preparation, hearty, flavorful, and still appealing to modern palates. He told Mashed, "Pinto beans and bacon are cooked together in a Dutch oven over an open flame or a campfire, creating a savory flavor from the bacon and an earthy note from the beans. The high heat of the campfire adds a unique smoky flavor to the meal." In the Old West, cowboys got their caffeine kick from a no-frills brew known as Cowboy coffee, just coarse grounds boiled over an open flame. If you're a coffee purist who cringes at the thought of boiling beans, don't dismiss it just yet. It's rough, but surprisingly effective.
Coffee is coffee, but when you make it the right way, folks, it is going to be the best cup of coffee in the world.
Cowboy cook Kent Rollins says properly made cowboy coffee is simple, yet surprisingly satisfying and delicious. Cowboy coffee, when it is made right, is probably the smoothest coffee in the world. When you boil coffee correctly, it takes the bitterness out and boils the acid out of the bean. If you're a coffee lover without fancy gear, or stuck camping or in a rental with no working machine, Cowboy coffee is a rugged, easy alternative worth trying for a bold, no-fuss brew. In today's culinary landscape, there's a growing interest in reviving ancient foods. Clean Technica notes that long-lost grains once consumed thousands of years ago are now reappearing in everything from rustic breads to trendy entrees. Even the paleo diet, highlighted by Nutrition Today, draws on this fascination, aiming to mimic the eating habits of our early ancestors for better health. One ancient food that made its way into cowboy culture was pemmican. As Britannica explains, it's a compact, calorie-dense bar made from dried meat, often venison, mixed with rendered fat and sometimes berries. Native Americans introduced pemmican to cowboys, and its durability, portability, and nutritional value made it ideal for long days on the trail. Today, pemmican is often considered a superfood. Mark's Daily Apple recounts how early 20th century anthropologist Vilhelmur Stephenson survived for weeks on nothing but pemmican and water while living with the Inuit in Alaska. He later claimed he had never felt better, testament to the food's remarkable sustenance and lasting appeal. An age-old culinary habit once summed up as simply, "Don't waste meat," has made a modern comeback under a more refined name, nose-to-tail eating. As explained by Clean Eating, this approach involves consuming all edible parts of an animal, from the snout to the tail, offering a broader range of flavors, reducing food waste, and supporting both environmental and budget-conscious goals. Long before the term was coined, cowboy cooks were already practicing this philosophy out of necessity. Whether butchering cattle or hunting wild game, nothing went to waste. Meat was too valuable, and every edible scrap had a purpose. According to Gastro Obscura, one particularly resourceful example involved the byproduct of castrating young bulls, a routine cowboy task meant to manage aggression and prevent breeding. Left with plenty of discarded testicles, cowboys put their resourcefulness to work and turned them into food. They battered and fried them into crispy bites, a dish that became known as Rocky Mountain oysters. Though unconventional, they remain a celebrated delicacy in parts of the American West today, perfect for adventurous eaters who appreciate bold flavors and a no-waste mindset. Rascal stew was a prime example of frontier practicality and the nose-to-tail tradition alive on Old West cattle drives. According to The Art of Manliness, this hearty dish featured a medley of organ meats: heart, liver, brains, sweetbreads, and even marrow gut, making use of parts that might otherwise be discarded. Far from being mere scraps, these ingredients created a flavorful, protein-rich meal that cowboys genuinely enjoyed. Elizabeth Nelson, a history professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, notes that fresh meat was a rarity on the trail. Without refrigeration and with ranchers discouraging the use of their livestock for food, cowboys typically relied on preserved items like salt pork. So when fresh beef was available, whether from a downed animal or a rare sanctioned slaughter, nothing was wasted. Every edible part found its way into the pot, turning necessity into a satisfying and resourceful meal. Cowboy cooks, no matter how skilled, were constrained by the limited space and non-perishable supplies they could carry on the trail. Staples like beans, salt pork, and flour were reliable, but day after day they made for a repetitive menu. To add variety and a touch of freshness, cowboys often turned to the land itself. According to Ask a Prepper, foraging was a common way to break the culinary monotony, with wild greens and herbs offering both flavor and nutritional boosts. The available forage varied by region. Cowboys might stumble upon wild garlic, lamb's quarters, watercress, chicory, sage, or even wild asparagus. These edible plants provided vitamins and minerals that their trail food lacked, and brought a welcome shift in taste and texture. Though these wild greens are still growing in fields and forests today, they're often overlooked. Wild edible notes that many are more nutrient-dense than store-bought produce, and foraging them offers a rewarding way to reconnect with nature. However, proper identification is essential. If you're new to foraging, seek guidance from a knowledgeable local expert. And remember the golden rule: when in doubt, don't eat it. On the trail, cowboys often looked beyond the chuck wagon for extra sustenance, hunting game and foraging for wild edibles. Even in the dry expanses of the American West, mushrooms could be found, though not without risk. As Ask a Prepper points out, while edible mushrooms were out there, so were many toxic ones that looked nearly identical. With no room for error, most cowboys played it safe and avoided mushrooms altogether, figuring the range was dangerous enough without adding mushroom poisoning to the mix. However, a few adventurous or very hungry cowboys did take the gamble. Those who did were usually careful to stick with unmistakable varieties known to be safe, like morels, dark, sponge-like mushrooms with a honeycomb appearance, and puffballs, which are smooth, round, and sometimes enormous. Morels, now prized by chefs and foodies, are rare finds in modern markets, while puffballs, according to Forager Chef, can grow to the size of soccer balls in the right conditions. Both are as tasty as they are distinct. Morels are often breaded and fried, but they also shine in creamy soups. Sliced thin, puffballs can even double as a creative, earthy alternative to pasta sheets.
You saute this in oil and garlic and butter and salt. I mean, anything's going to be good at that point, but this is a very savory and nutty mushroom.
Always consult an expert to verify a mushroom's safety. Never start cooking until you're absolutely certain it's edible. Chuckwagon cooks also struggled with scarce tools. As Elizabeth Nelson tells Mashed, most meals were cooked in a Dutch oven or a spider, a covered skillet with cast iron legs that could be set in the coals, or in a pot hung on an iron bar suspended over the fire. Stews were a staple on the cowboy menu, largely because they were practical and adaptable. With minimal cooking gear and unpredictable ingredients, trail cooks often relied on slow simmering to tenderize tough cuts of meat. As George Ranch Historical Park notes, Texas cattle of the time were especially lean, so slow cooking helped make the meat more flavorful and easier to eat. Cowboy stews had no set recipe. Each cook had their own take, often using whatever was on hand. Food scientist Michael Murdy points out that canned vegetables like carrots and tomatoes were common additions, adding both flavor and nutrition. If you're looking for a budget-friendly, low-effort meal, take inspiration from the chuckwagon. Grab some inexpensive cuts of meat, toss in whatever canned or fresh vegetables you have, add some seasoning, and let it stew. Improvisation was part of the tradition. Let's be honest, hardtack isn't exactly a crowd pleaser. It's dry, bland, and notoriously tough, often compared to chewing on a brick. But what it lacks in flavor, it more than makes up for in practicality. According to the Texas Historical Commission, hardtack earned its place in cowboy and sailor diets thanks to one key trait: it lasts forever. Made from just flour, water, and salt, It's the ultimate survival food, lightweight, shelf-stable, and nearly indestructible. While you probably won't crave it as a snack, hardtack has its place, especially if you're a camper, hiker, or prepping for natural disasters. Think of it like uncooked pasta. It's not meant to be eaten straight from the box. Cowboy softened hardtack by dunking it in hot coffee, soup, or stew, making it easier to chew and more palatable. Some even fried it after soaking for a heartier meal. If you're out in the wilderness relying on freeze-dried meals or just need a dependable emergency ration, hardtack could be a solid, literally, addition. Soften it with hot water or broth, and it becomes a filling, practical way to stretch a meal, just like it did on the old cattle trails.
You got a good sarsaparilla?
Sioux City sarsaparilla?
Yeah, it's a good one.
You've probably only heard of sarsaparilla thanks to an old cowboy ordering it in a Western you half remember. In the Old West, sarsaparilla wasn't just a quirky drink order from cowboy movies. It was a beloved beverage with a rich history. Cowboy historian Chip Schweiger notes that cowboys enjoyed sarsaparilla not only for its taste, but for its supposed health benefits. Made from a wild North American plant related to ginseng, the drink was first concocted by Spanish soldiers in the 16th century as a remedy for syphilis. By the 1800s, Americans embraced sarsaparilla, attributing a wide range of curative properties to it. So, what's the flavor like? The South Florida Sun Sentinel describes it as similar to root beer, but with a unique twist. Sarsaparilla was often used as a key ingredient in early root beer recipes, along with other herbs like wintergreen. The extract of the plant has a mildly bitter taste, which is balanced out with sweeter ingredients like licorice, according to Bundaberg. If you're a fan of root beer and want a drink with a more pronounced flavor, sarsaparilla might be just what you're looking for. Some even say it still offers health benefits, such as relieving pain and soothing digestive issues.